you're going to be on videotape this evening. I know my children are having fun watching me from Seattle and from Albany and from Washington, D.C. They get to catch their mother on tape. Good evening, and thank you to our one of our final workshops. You can catch us again, but not on videotape, at the Noyac Civic Council on April 12th. We'll be presenting again about the Stella Maris and also about our budget. Jennifer Buscemi and I will be there. We would love to have you there as well. But I believe this will be our final workshop tonight, and we really welcome your questions. Forgive me if I move too quickly. I will back up. But I'm seeing familiar faces. I'm seeing some new faces. I'm excited about that. I will take you through the process. I'll take you through the survey results this evening. And then we'll have time for question and answer about the potential purchase of the Stella Maris. Be very, very clear that this is based on what our voters decide on May 17th. This was simply, as I would say, Steve Jobs always said, his entire company, Apple, was founded on the why, on why are we doing this? And the board of our trustees, our Board of Education, simply saw that a school building became available. They were informed of that. That came to them, and they said they simply felt that was too big for them. This really had to go to our community. This absolutely had to go to our community. So we've spent a tremendous amount of time pulling together every bit of information we possibly could. All of it is on our website, our www.sagharborschools.org. You can go to the Stella Maris link, and it's all there, except for this evening. And I got a few phone calls, folks asking where tonight's meeting was, and I said, it's on our website, and it's on all of our three newspapers. Have been so good to cover this so thoroughly. And Scott Fisher, our Director of Technology, is here tonight, and he can vouch for, we are not the only website that went down this evening, that there's a number of other schools as well that went down, so it wasn't, you want to help me?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, other schools that share in the same site as we do the same service, we do School World, their sites are down at the same time. One example would be Patrick Medford Schools, their site's down. I was contacted by the company, and they told us they're experiencing a power issue internal to their data center, and that the site will be back online as soon as they resolve that power, along with all the other sites. So it's not just limited to Sag Harbor.
So I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I was delaying a little to see if we had any more folks coming through. I'm Katie Graves. I'm very proud to be your school superintendent. I'm going to do some introductions quickly. We were missing a few people. We had a little rash of illness this evening. But let me start with our Board of Education.
Hi, Chris Tice, Vice President of the Board.
Sandy Cruel.
Stephanie Bittis.
Diana Kolhoff.
Teresa Samet.
And Tommy John Scavone.
And Jennifer Buscemi, School Business Administrator.
Jeff Nichols, Middle School, High School Principal.
Scott Fisher, Director of Technology.
Thank you very much. All right, for those of you who have been here before, I apologize so much for the repetitiveness, but we really do want to show the same presentation as the folks that were here the last time. If I move too quickly, I used to teach home economics, and sometimes when I taught the same class, 2 periods in a row, I go, oh, I have to make sure that I cover everything. So if I do, forgive me. Let me see, make sure. Oh, I gotta back up. So first of all, the overview of the evening, we're going to review the informational slides that are available on our website. So I won't go through all of the slides tonight, but you can go back and look through them. The slides I will not cover tonight are every single option, because when I go through this survey, you're going to see some of the options didn't resonate. We did have a very robust number of people take the survey, though. We did have almost 500 people participate in the survey. That's very good for Sag Harbor. Historically, we have not seen that kind of a robust number of folks take the survey, so it's a really good thing. So some of those slides I'm not going to cover, the ones that we saw where we didn't see that kind of following. We're going to talk about the information and related costs to the Sag Harbor community that went along with the option that resonated the most, because the other options didn't have related costs along with them, because they were going to be serviced. The personnel, the folks that would be taking those might be a college or by a BOCES. This was the option that resonated the most, that folks reflected on the most, was the option that did come with related costs. So we were very careful in making sure that we were providing you tonight with those related costs. The updates for upcoming meetings and community question and answer. And May 17th at the Pearson Gym will be the budget, the bond, and the board member votes. And I also want to thank everybody for coming. Just quickly, some of the things that you would find in the informational slides that we provided prior to folks taking the survey. The survey was open for 16 days. You could take it from your computer at home, you could take it from your phone, you could take it on paper. We had 11 folks that came into the library and took it because they were computer phobic. That's okay. So we made that available for folks to take it by paper in the library as well. We had cards that went home that told folks it was available. Even if they got those cards 5 days in, they still had 10 more days available for them to take the survey. This is a letter from our School Board of Education, basically outlining the fact that this was an opportunity. This was an opportunity we're never going to see again. Folks have brought up over and over, and I can't blame them. There's so many things when we see a school building that we want to get to, we want to get busy around. You know, we make so many lists of things that we think, you know, this is such a priority. Why the Stella Maris, former Stella Maris building? Because it will never be for sale again. That's all. That's the only reason that we've brought this forward. It will never be for sale again. And we do have what I refer to as a footprint, which, you know, forgive me for my technical terms as a superintendent, but that means a very small space, a very small space. So should the community say, we want to expand our small space to have a larger footprint, because we don't have a crystal ball. We do not know what the future is going to bring for Sag Harbor. We have a tax cap, which is very, very constricting, especially the economy of scale. We're fortunate here at Sag Harbor. We're not dependent. We don't send our children to other high schools, so we're not dependent on paying whatever you say and I'll pay it, what their tuitions are going to be. We're very fortunate that way. We have a little bit larger economy of scale, but if you're a really tiny school district and you're held to a very tiny tax cap, that gets to be a real challenge. You're really, really working that all the time. So they might have to start making decisions, and perhaps those decisions will be sending children to us. Like, for instance, this evening, we have to have a board meeting. After this meeting tonight, you know, it's a real tough decision when Wayne Scott says, we'd like to give our parents the opportunity to send our children to East Hampton or to Sag Harbor. Well, let me think. Okay. It took the Board of Education a really long time to make that decision. Yes, we would love to have your children. Now, they only have 68 children in their district, and, you know, 20 of them stay behind for kindergarten through third grade, but all those other years, yes, we think we have something really magic and really special here. We don't know if that trend will continue, and I'm not going to tell you it will, but that's that letter from the Board of Education. I think that makes sense. It is not, what they're going to clearly tell you tonight, it's not their decision. They really wanted to put it in the hands of our voters. And I get overly enthusiastic about anything that involves children. So please, please understand that Katie Graves gets very enthusiastic, so folks will go, well, you just want everybody to buy. I don't. I really believe, and I follow, you know, my trustees, my Board of Education, and they just want to put this out to our folks here in the community on the vote on May 17th. I just get enthusiastic, so just say, I'm not voicing an opinion one way or the other, but I wanted to get all the information out as much as our board has asked me to, and as much as our community folks have asked. This is the timeline that we have followed. In June, the Board of Education took first steps to explore the options. Folks have asked over and over, why wasn't the public involved? Our attorneys were very clear, and I personally, as a professional, did not want to make any mistakes in bringing this opportunity to the community. This was a real estate transaction. Real estate transactions have to happen in executive session. So when we did the appraisal, if we had let that appraisal out, the board invested in that appraisal. If that appraisal goes out to the community, it's worthless to us now. That has to be held in executive session amongst our trustees so that we can know what the value is. If our taxpayers invested in our trustees investing in that appraisal, we have to keep that under wraps until we move to the point where we made an agreement with the church. You don't invest in appraisal and then put it out for the public to review until you have an agreement to move forward. The church has been very clear, they want to pick their neighbors. So September 21st, the Board of Education secured architects to conduct a facilities analysis of the former Stella school. They shared with the Sag Harbor schools, again, an executive session, because that was something we invested in them doing on everything related to it. What I don't have in here too is we also did a 2-part environmental impact study, and that is also online for folks to look at. The environmental impact study was done along with them doing what would it take to bring the school district up. And at first, it was a big sticker shock. You know, we're talking about $6.3 million. But then we had to go back out to our bonds and have them do an analysis of what that would mean to each taxpayer. So that was another part. On November 17th, we brought in over a number of days, we brought in our educational administrators to say, how would this work best for children? How would this work for our children and for our community and for other folks that could access it? Because we're asked constantly to use our facilities for our senior citizens, for our other community members, and we're strained all the time. You know, for a little while we had to have our insurance company come in and fix this floor because we had some problems, and they took care of it. They did a great job, but you had to feel the strain for a little while. We couldn't have a practice in here. We feel that because they do want to use this. So then we went on to, there was a blip in there because I was very, very sick in January, so that delayed the process a little bit. But in March, Sag Harbor community residents all received postcards, and they also received on our website a link to our website with all the informational slides, which we've continued to update weekly with every bit of information we have. Our auditors laughed at us. We're being audited by New York State, which all the schools are in New York State right now. And they laughed because they said, what is it with you and the website? Because Jennifer Buscemi can tell you that she used to be a New York State auditor, and they were very clear that we are over rigorous in our transparency. And I took that as quite a compliment. And they said the same thing about this process. They thought that this was very transparent. And I'm glad to hear that, but if we can be more transparent, please let us know. On March 26th, the board received their survey results back, and that's the presentations we've been doing now. And so what were the 5 options that we surveyed folks on? And there's one missing. The 6th option that would be over here was do not purchase this property. Do not do that. And I'll give you the survey results in just a moment. And that was, and here's where the kind of the sticker shock comes from, is this was to bring it up to New York State. And I have some new folks in the audience tonight, so please forgive me, folks that have been here before. But you can't set foot in a building. Once it's a school district, once it's owned by a school, you have to make it up to New York State standards for a child, for adult, for anybody. It has to come up to New York State Department of Education standards. That means absolute handicapped access. That's probably the biggest ticket item. Ramps everywhere, elevator everywhere. Wouldn't we want all of our buildings to be like that? You know, our public libraries fall under this as well, but isn't that lovely? Having been a mother of 4 children with a stroller, having had a mom that was in a wheelchair and lived with me for 2 years, you start loving those handicapped federal laws. You start thinking that's the greatest thing in the whole world when you got to get a stroller somewhere or you've got to get an 82-year-old mother somewhere. And she's like, isn't this just lovely? We never had elevators in my day. I was like, Mom, you lived in the 1920s. I don't think they had. She goes, oh, they did. I was like, well, so it's a beautiful thing, but this was sticker shock to us. The Board of Education really had to, you know, kind of breathe through the prices. Now, each of the options came with an additional cost for the concept or option that were all reflected here. Now, last week, we took the largest bond option, and that was the 11,956,763, and that's what we put in. Now, that number is going to spiraled down to the option that the board finally discusses, in public session and says this is the one we're going to move forward with. It will obviously be expansive and be able to be used for many, many other things because it's a large space, but that they're moving forward with this piece that's going to be best for our children. So this is the appraisal report that's also available online. Whoops. And I wanted to be very clear, this is the letter of intent between the school district and the Catholic Diocese that was signed on February 12th. This is what they call phase 2. Now we have the entire phase 2. This is a summary because the actual phase 2 report is, I think, around 30 pages long. But this summarizes where that $6.3 million comes from. And again, as you start seeing, it's about ventilation, it's about fire safety, it's about roof and windows and handicap accessibility. And it goes through more of it. But again, you can hit the online version that gives you more. So that's kind of the summary of the process we followed. And where we are tonight is I'm going to give you the survey results. And we're going to just talk a little bit, and then it's really yours. The rest of the evening is all yours. I did have some clarifying points because when someone brings me something, and anything that you walk out and you went, oh, I wish I'd asked Katie or the board members or the administrators this, you can email me, and I will not only answer it, but I will also add it to the website. So that's good. The only thing that takes us a little bit of time is these videos because they take a little bit of time to process. So you won't see these for maybe 3 or 4 days. So my glamorous self won't be available, but I know you'll be waiting to see it. So you can, so folks that didn't make it can watch all of these workshops that we've had. Now, some updates is we did have folks talking about enrollment, and when Jennifer Buscemi and I have had Western Suffolk BOCES has they have a contracted service they'll do for you, and they will do enrollment studies for you. They're not perfect. They are not perfect. Like one of the things they had in there was the Watch Case Factory having X number of children. We looked at each other and went, I don't think so. I don't think the Watch Case Factory is going to have a lot of kids. We're bright enough that we can look through it and know our culture and be able to scale up and scale back. But this gives you a really good gist. It gives you a really good gist because they look at live births in the county. They look at live births in this region. They look at what those live births have looked like going back X number of years and going forward X number of years. They look at your historical trends. So it gives you some real pieces. Now this looks like this. When you get to the website, you're going to see it starts out looking like this as a PDF. It's very long. But I took a couple pages that you may want to look at, and I had them because some of us are eyesight challenged like myself. Just so when you look at these, it gives you lots and lots. It's a very long document, but this goes from 2015 to 2025, and we do hear, we're trending down, we're trending down. We're trending down, but we're not trending down by huge amounts, and what they don't put into this is our tuitioning in students, and we're trending up on tuitioning in students. We weren't for a little while there, but Sagaponic's just signed on for another 5 years. Wainscott's signing on for 5 years. So that's elementary and middle school. So that's another trending piece that we're going to see. Again, that is not a reassurance. Oh my goodness, these are very, very tiny districts. So these are not, but there's also a nice management piece that we can manage around small numbers and see. We also have parents that tuition in. We don't put those into these studies, and we don't put that into our budget. So when you look at our budget, you'll see, oh my goodness, you'll see this tremendous drop in tuition. Jennifer and I have made it very clear with the Board of Education, we do not ever, until parents actually come in, enroll their child, and pay the tuition, that's when we count that as a revenue. Because that's just how we were brought up. You just don't. We don't do any speculation. So that's just some understanding. This gives you another breakdown, and that gives you from grade level to grade level, and you can see percent changes. And you see a fairly, we have a healthy participation in our elementary coming up through. Another note, there were some questions on zoning that came to our administrators, and so I had our attorney weigh in on this. And the zoning is yes, it's R20 zoning, but as soon as if the school district were to, if the voters did decide to purchase Stella Maris, and we were to take ownership, New York State Department of Education now is the zone. It's now zoned as a public school in New York State. Done. We trump everybody. I'm not trying to be all that. I'm not trying to say, well, town, village, who do you think you are? No, no, no. We're simply zoned as a public school, which is its own ordinance, and has things like no drugs, no smoking, no, there's all kinds of things that come along with it, and nobody really wants to be a public school because you think village and town have a lot of rules. We have a ton of rules that go along with how we have to do business, but it's all really clean, nice business that we do. So that's also in there. Again, here's the options we talked about. Here's the related costs so far. Folks had asked, what have you invested so far? And this is our investment so far in our appraisal, in the building inspections. This J.C. Broderick is what we invested for our environmental impact to make sure that it was, a safe building. That was our architect's analysis. Then this was our online, and then I'll move through this. We had, for this, some of the questions had different respondents. So we had 453 respondents with how would you best describe yourself. I'm showing you, you can see it's a pretty consistent. We didn't have a tremendous jump in one or another category. Elementary with a resident with an elementary student is our second category. A resident who's a senior might have been our next category, but you're not seeing, and this is the actual numbers, and you can actually see how many people responded to each one of those areas. But it's, I think our biggest was our senior citizens, and our with Sag Harbor, 111 with a child in Sag Harbor schools, 24.5%. And our resident who's a senior citizen, age 65 or older, was 22.52%, and that was 102. This is in order of preference, and I'm going to just take a second to talk about choice. We have had hundreds and hundreds of books written about choice, articles written about choice, and if you've ever had a teenager that lives in your life in front of a refrigerator, you know about choice in front of the refrigerator. When you're trying to get dinner, and they have the refrigerator open, and you're like, can I help you? What are you doing? I don't know, I'm hungry. I know I'm getting dinner, we're gonna have dinner in a moment. Oh, right. I just need something to drink. There's water, there's milk. You only have 2 choices. Oh, right. Now you've limited it to 2 choices. So what we know is when people especially have to make powerful decisions, you wanna honor their first 2 choices. You don't wanna just look at their first choice. That's me being bossy. I'm very bossy. So they know that. So when we looked at this, we looked at the options. So when you look at green, right here, that's going to show you the number 1 choice. So when people were asked to choose your first choice that resonates the most, your second choice that resonates the most, your third choice, you can see where green came through. This was do not purchase. And this was our first option, which was our preschool, and I'll talk about that option a little bit, which was our preschool, authentic middle school, and having a daycare center. That was the big one. The next one was our STEAM, and after that, you're seeing very, very low numbers on the others. So this was least preferred. This was most preferred. And again, those are the actual numbers of people that took that. So 130 folks said, do not purchase this. 173 folks picked option 1 as their very first choice. For option 2 was 36 people. For option 3 was 53 people. Option 4 was 10 people. And option 5 was 13 people. I tried this one last week and it didn't work at all. It was a really bad idea because I was trying to show the folks that would have picked option 1 as their first and second choice. And so I did another graphic. That's much prettier. So what we're doing is I'm combining folks' first and second choice. Remember that teenager sitting in front of the refrigerator trying to decide on what he wants to have? You have to decide. Well, folks are trying to decide first, second choice, so this is their first and second choice. So I combine the two, and this is the graphic. So this was, blue is folks' first choice, and this was their second choice. So you start seeing how much folks' first and second choice really resonated for that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sure. They rank them, so they have to rank it. So this is my first, I'm ranking this option as my first, this is the one I want the most, this is the one I want second, third, fourth, so they're ranked in terms of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rank.
I don't understand the question there.
Yeah.
No, you ranked them.
Only one could be one.
Correct. If they
But,
chose-
but you had the numbers 1 through 6. So you had to take options, your 6 options, and then say, this one's the most important to me. This is the second, this is the third. Some folks didn't do that. They just put option 6, that's all I want. I'm not gonna even rank anything else. I just put that as the most important to me. You can actually go through every single one. We have all 400 and some on there, and you can see how folks responded. Yes, you can. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
You can actually see the actual responses. We actually have every single person's physical slide online if you want to go look at them. I actually put all of their physical responses online, so you can actually look at what they put and they ranked. No, no, no. Well, yes. But you're going to put what you're going to put. You only have one. Only, if a person's sitting at the computer and it was only one IP address, so one house, one address, they sit there and they have 6 options in front of them. Let's go back to the 6 options.
But many people only picked 1 or 2, which is why you don't see 2,840 up there. You see like 700 or 800, whatever it is, because many people only picked 1 or 2. They said, I feel so strongly about this, I don't even want to consider the rest, I guess is the philosophy. But to Katie's point, you can see how every person who filled it out, including their comments. You can read, I've read them, I'm embarrassed to say. It takes a long time, but you can. But a lot of people only picked 1 or 2. That's why you're seeing that number.
Yeah. Because let's say I'm Katie Graves, and I picked the ones that resonated the most with them. They would pick that. That's my first priority, number 1. Priority, ranked number 1, my favorite. That's my favorite choice. This is my second favorite choice. So I took their first and their second, because people vacillate between their first and second, what they want most. I used to waitress, watching people decide what they want for dessert.
Katie, just so you know, this research process, the process in which this is done is actually done professionally from research countries from coast to coast. I've worked with them. So it's not as if, as a school district, we came up with some kind of cockamamie way to do this. This is no, but I'm just letting you know in terms of the graph, that even if you want to look at who said no versus who said buy it, and I like these choices, the majority said that they were for it, and even if you looked at only the number 1 selection versus don't buy, and you eliminated the other 4 in the middle, still just those that picked number 1 outweighed all of those that ranked don't buy it. So we're just reporting everything on there, but it is kind of statistically projectable in that sense, because the sample actually, the response sample is very high. When you think about the amount of voters we have any given, No. What I'm saying is the 500 people or 4 whatever that filled it out is a large portion of those that are active in voting in this community. So in terms of results, we can have a high degree of confidence in them.
Give him a copy of the survey so you could see how the question was asked and the options, and then you might understand better.
So actually, we had a company do this for us that actually created the survey, and so if you were looking at, so for example, for option 1, which was our pre-K, daycare, authentic middle school, 173 people, 52%, pick that as the option that they preferred the most, that was the most favorite to them, because they had to rank it. You only get to pick your most favorite once, your second favorite once, your third favorite once, your fourth favorite once. You only get to do that once as the person taking part in the survey.
Right, but I'm sorry, right behind you, it says total amount of respondents. You've got 330, 293, 303, 297, 293, and 379. That's
Right.
a lot more than 500.
No, okay. Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I? Okay. 473 people. 473?
Yeah.
473 took it. They got to answer 1 through 6. So 473 times 6 potentially gives you 2,718 answers. Okay? So if you take that column, that total column, the 330, the 293, okay, you're going to get close to this, but not exact. Because if I said my first choice is this, I don't want to buy this. My first choice is number 6. I do not want to buy this. Then I could have walked away from the survey. I could have also, next person said, my first choice is number 1 at the elementary school, and it's my only choice, and walked away from the survey. Now, out of the 453 people that replied, now there's 451 to go, because 2 people said option 6, option 1. Third guy sat down and said, option 1's my first choice, option 3 is my second choice. So you only got 2 answers from that person. So do you see why it doesn't add up to 2718? So every answer's up there. I think that's what your question is. I'm trying to follow Simon's thinking. Help me.
I don't know how you can get an accurate percentage without determining how many people had 1 answer and how many people had 6 answers.
But that's why she's got every single answer up there. In other words, option 1,
This
Katie,
isn't-
I can't see it. What's under 52.4%?
this-
170?
173.
This is an anonymous survey, right?
Yes.
So you can't tell if somebody had 6 answers or 1,
Right.
or
Yes,
3
you
or
can.
4.
You
Yes,
just
you
don't know who
can.
the person
Yeah.
is.
You can, but you don't know it's Simon that answered it. Yes, you can. Everybody got 6 choices. So anonymous person 1 voted once or voted 6 times in order of what they wanted. Go ahead.
For example, on my home laptop, I took the survey, and then I said to my husband, here, you need to take the survey. And he went on and said, beep, you already took this survey. You can't take it.
Good.
My home computer, my web browser, said, closed off. You already put your answers in. You can't vote for option 1 17,000 times with 1 taxpayer. And it closed off. So if that's what you're asking, that's why one person can't answer it more than what that's what you're saying. Like, I can go in more than once on my home computer and take the survey.
I understand that, and that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, if you cannot determine how many times one anonymous responder answered a question, how can you have accuracy?
Well, that's why we're taking it to a vote on May 17th. This survey was to get a feel and get a resonance for what everybody's asking for. So a survey gives us feedback, gives us really good feedback.
You do have accuracy.
We, well, to follow, your thinking that should somebody have taken it more than one time, and
That
God
wasn't
bless
his
them.
question.
But
That wasn't his question.
That's not my question, nor is it my concern. And I'm probably the only person here that doesn't get it, right? I did take the survey.
you know what, Scott, if we could.
How many answers?
Why don't you show him?
Can I make a suggestion? Because I really think it's,
Maybe this.
Katie,
Yeah,
can I,
Simon, look through these, and then I'll come back to you.
hold on.
I'm not suggesting.
No, it might, I think it
I'm
might,
not suggesting
no, I believe you too.
anything except the process
Here,
seems insane.
here, take a look at these, and this might help. If you look.
I'd like to make a suggestion, because we care that we would like you to understand the process, but we also want to respect that we have a room of people, and some of them have to put the kids to bed. So what I'm going to ask, Simon, is that after the meeting, we're happy to go through in much, much greater detail if you, to make you feel comfortable. All righty? Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So when we stacked together, so this was my bad slide. This was my slide last time that folks really struggled with, because I took option one, the folks' first choice and folks' second choice, and I combined them. But because of how the graphic looks, it was hard to understand. So I put the two together, and I took first preference, first choice, most favorite, and that's your blue. So across the board, here is the blue, and you start seeing where some of these choices, our option 4 and our option 5, did not resonate with folks. We saw a little bit with, which was the Culinary Academy. With it, this was our vocational education that resonated somewhat with folks. Our STEAM technology, having a STEAM academy for the East End, that resonated somewhat with folks. As a matter of fact, that was our second choice, our second highest for first and second option. Then there was the do not purchase. We saw there were some folks that added to that. And then we had our first option came. So, oops. So if you want a complete list that I just shared with Simon, he has in front of him, you can hit this link, and then we have this, so you can look at every single, and they are worth reading. Even though, Chris is going, I read through everyone, they really do give you a tremendous amount of feedback. And each one of them has with them comments and things that they reflect upon. So that gave a lot of feedback to our Board of Education. The piece that came up, this option 1, this is option 1, and I'm going to spend a couple minutes going through it. Option 1 that resonated the most with the survey was for a pre-K, early intervention, and enhanced Pearson Middle School wing. And what that would include, and I'm going to talk very fast, but you can ask me questions when we get done with this, is to move the existing district-funded 3 pre-K half-day classes to the former Stella Maris building. Right now, they are housed in what is our middle school wing. It's working. It is wonderful. The children are getting a great experience. I'm down the hallway from them. It's great. They have a beautiful little playground. But when sitting down with Matt Malone and Donna Den and our tremendous leaders, they said, love to have that space. We would love to give them a gymnasium. We'd love to give them their own stage. We would love to have them have their dedicated space, and we think the program would expand. Going all day is not sustainable for our school, at least district right now, because going to an all-day daycare or pre-K means New York State steps in and gives us a whole lot more rules. And if you spend time with pre-K, they spend about half the day napping. So mine used to fall asleep on the way home. You get this like this body in the back seat. So what we did hear over and over again from Donna and from Matt and from parents is when they have to come halfway through their day and leave at lunch hour to pick up their child, when they have to come halfway through the day and drop their child off at noon, that's a real hardship. Grandmas, aunts, uncles, dads, moms are all taking turns. Matt said if that wasn't as hard, we might get more children into our pre-K program. Now, some parents don't want to do pre-K. They're like, no, we want to slow it down, but daycare would be great. It would be great to have daycare close. But at the same time, if we do daycare, we really need to make sure that we put it out first to our local providers so we don't put anybody out. We do have, Scope was first to raise their hand and say, we have daycare all over Long Island, love to come to Sag Harbor. But that was one of the things that Matt and Donna were very clear about. And if you don't know who that is, that's our wonderful elementary principal and our wonderful elementary assistant principal. So they would move out of our elementary wing and down into their own dedicated space. That would come with costs, and I'm going to talk about those costs in a moment: a nurse, a custodian, and security personnel. Pre-K children on the East End, Intervention specialist services by existing Sag Harbor personnel. We often hear, what if the enrollment declines? If the enrollment declines, we have our own speech therapists. We have a program for little special needs students. We have folks that could offer those services here. Again, keeping our littles near. My own child will tell this story over and over again, and he doesn't even mind. He works at the Children's Museum, and he's like, yeah, I'm Katie Graves' autistic son. It's okay. If the cat's out of the bag, I'm good. Because you can't pick him out in a crowd. You could not pick my son out now at 22 years old, but he was diagnosed at 2 as autistic. At 3 and 4, he received every intervention service, OT, PT, speech, everything, pragmatics, how to take turns, everything. He still wasn't sitting at a table with his peers willingly in 5th and 6th grade, but he went to college, and you couldn't pick him out in a crowd. He had his own apartment. He had friends. He knew sports. He learned to not tell people that he memorized every single movie star, every single baseball player, every single everything. He started to like reel that back really quick. But those intervention services, not only were they important for me as a mom to advocate for, but it saved the school district so much in investment later on in the years. He didn't need those services later on because he had them so early, and it made him so successful. We know that here, and we've done that so successfully here at Sag Harbor Schools. We have started with with our own, bringing our own children back here as well in a special education programming, and it's been such a successful year. It was just such a smart move, and I think our families and all of our children are so much the better for it. So the other one is licensed daycare provider to go from 7 in the morning till 5 at night. This stabilizes our pre-K parents so that hopefully we can bring more of our pre-K parents in, and again, provide them with that lap time. You know, which way the pages turn, provide them with the enrichment to get up on stage and to speak and talk and learn. Then also move our pupil personnel special education services department that's now housed in the high school down so that we would have an administrator, we'd have a secretary, so we don't have to make reinvestments in that. So that puts a supervisor down there, and it frees up an office. I would move into that office and leave the middle school. As much as I love being in the middle school, I love being there. I'm right by the locker rooms. I know what's going on. I do. Yes. Wait, we gotta wait. Simon, I promise I'll ask. But we've had this rule going through all these workshops. One question, and then I do a ring around because these guys have babies and they gotta get home. No. I was an assistant principal. Could you tell that tone? Okay. So we're gonna move the assistant, former Stella Maris. I'm going to move out. The business office is also going to move out. So that I'm gonna show you in a moment a floor plan of how much space that builds in the middle school so that our middle school children, who are doing just fine, they're doing great. So proud of them. I love spending time with them, but that frees up so much more space for an authentic middle school. With the space that's made available, move our assistant principal for the middle school and our guidance counselor for the middle school down so they're right there where it's all happening. Oh, I want to be down there. But they are really the educational professionals that can be that close to the children when they're changing classes, when they're in the locker room, where, you know, it's really, you can hear the hum. I said where you can see them, hear them, and smell them, you know? Then also we would capture that what is now the current playground, make that a green science center that's student-driven. We have an edible garden at the elementary. Let's keep that going. Let's drive that right up through. I used to teach home economics, and I was teaching a class one day, and I had a little girl, and I said, you know, your group's going to be working on the potatoes, you know, making mashed potatoes, and she's all over the back, and we're still good friends today. She's in her 40s, and she goes, I've looked everywhere. I can't find it. I said, what are you looking for? The box of potatoes. She'd never seen a potato. We got to work on this. So an edible, and then also solar and wind energy, exploration of other STEM projects that space could be utilized for. We do have space, but this is already fenced in space. That's exciting. See, I'm doing it. You see, I got to dial it back. You see, when I start talking about kids, I got to dial it back. So that's good. So that would come at a little bit of a cost. There's so many gardening and STEM grants out there, but the district would have to fund that initial start. More middle school, moving the middle school principal and the guidance counselor, I already covered that. Jennifer, can you take us through the costing for folks? I know folks have heard this before, but I want to make sure that we have new faces, that they understand the costing.
Yes, so this is the additional improvements that would be needed for option number 1, and they total $595,678. And I just want to say that $495,000 worth of these additional improvements are actually included in every single option. So these are really bare bones things that we need to be in compliance with SED regulations. And you can see they have to do with some small improvements in the auditorium, also main level and lower level access to the elevator, and some furnishings are in here. And then we have, of course, a lot of the site work having to do with ADA ramps and ADA access.
And also, we have to have a nurse. So the nurse has to have her room and her building. And so can you take us, this is tough, but boy, once you learn this, you'll be so good at this. You can be reading and knowing how to follow board meetings and budgets for the rest of your time.
So this is
Right?
the amortization schedule associated with option 1. And option 1 is actually one of our lowest cost options. And it basically shows the timing of all of our principal and interest payments over time. It maximizes the use of bands and also bonds. And the timing of the bands and the bonds are in a way to have, to result in the least financial impact on taxpayers. So the total amount that would have to eventually be bonded would be $10,233,500. That includes the Phase 1 $3.3 million for the purchase of the building, $6,337,822 for the Phase 2 improvements just to get the building up to code, and then the additional improvement costs that we just showed on the previous slide of $595,678. So what we would do is, if we decided, if the voters decide that we should purchase this facility, we would probably end up purchasing it sometime in July. And what we would do is we would issue a ban at that time. And bans are short-term, basically bond anticipation notes. They're one-year terms. They carry a very, very low interest rate. The schedule here is based on current market conditions, and the interest rates right now that are embedded in the schedule for the bands is 1%. But our previous bands that we have recently issued have been less than 1%, and they've actually been less than half of 1%. So this is a conservative estimate of what the cost would be.
And you can't get
Our
those loans on
first-
your car loans. Don't even
No.
try and get a 0.5% on your car loans. We only get that because we're a public school, and our bond rating since Jennifer and I started has gone up twice. So we have one of the highest bond ratings, and that's because of very, very smart moves by our Board of Education. Very, very smart moves before I got here. They've done a really nice job of filling every one of our reserves so that we're a very stable, reliable fiscal. Our fiscal decisions are very smart. We've moved slowly and carefully, and that's reflected when Moody looks at us. And so we, not once but twice, our Moody bond ratings have gone up. So that's why when Jennifer and I were very conservative, we put these tables together, and she worked with our bond counsel. We said 1%, and we're right now going out at less than 0.5%. So we were very careful when we created these.
Yes, so you can see that the years are listed all the way down the line, and if we did issue a ban for the purchase of the building, our first payment on that ban would occur in 2017-18. And you can see the total due in 2017-18 would be $33,000. For 2018-19, we would have to make a principal and interest payment on our ban for the purchase of the building, and then we would have to make an interest payment only on the ban for the construction phase. So in 2018-19, our debt service for this purchase would go up to $152,335. And then in year 3, we would pay principal and interest on both bands. That would be for the purchase of the building and the construction. And the total due in year 3, 2019-20, would be $380,335. At that time, we would look at the interest rates for bonds, and we would decide whether or not we would roll both of the bands into a bond. And this schedule shows that that if rates are good, we would do that in the 2020-2021 year, and our debt service now would go up to around $642,000, give or take, all the way down to 2040. So the next slide will show you why we plan the principal and interest payments that way. And it is because our current annual obligations, which are in the second column, you can see from the year 1919 to 2020, going into 2020 to 2021, our debt service payments go from $1,970,406 down to $889,131. So we have almost more than $1 million worth of debt scheduled payments falling off of our debt service schedules. So if we added that $642,000 into that year, the taxpayers would still see a net decrease that year of $819,331 in debt service payments going down. So what does this mean in dollars for taxpayers? Well, in year one, you would see that there would be $26,059 spread out amongst all of our tax base. In year two, it would be $110,810, and in year three, it would be $222,413. And the reason why those numbers are a little different is because our current obligations are going down slightly also for those first 3 years. So the next slide will show you the impact on the average homeowner, and we used $1 million worth of assessed value. So if your home is worth more than $1 million, you could either, you could cut this amount in half, or you could double this amount, depending on your own situation. But in year one, the cost of that $33,000 or that $22,000, which is the difference between debt service that we currently have and debt service that we would be, our new debt service, that would be $3.88 per year for the town of
And this is based on a $1
East
million home, so I just want to be careful.
Yes.
So if you have a $500,000, we tried to make it an easy denominator so you could cut it in half. Or if you had a $2 million home, you would double this amount. Or if you had a $3 million home, you'd triple that amount. We tried to make it we tried to simplify it. Okay, keep
And
going.
this is based on current assessed values. And so it would be an impact of less than $4 a year in year one, 17-18. In year two, you would go into spreading out that $152,000 spread amongst our tax base, and that cost would be around $16.50 per year. And in year three, we get that $300,000 hit, and that cost would be about $33 for each individual taxpayer per year. And also, going from 2020 to 2040, there would be no net tax levy impact because of all of the other debt falling off of our books at that time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So back to, this was the option one, and I just want to show you very quickly the how it would look on the slides. The red are the captured instructional spaces that we would get, and the blue would be the 2 offices that we would set up for the middle school assistant principal and the middle school guidance counselor. And this is what is now the playground for the 2 preschools, and that would become the former, so just for those of you that are like me that need visual space. And the blue areas up there are the areas that would be moving down here, maybe moving down to the blue area. So you can see they're approximately about the same. These are projected costs. We did say there would be related costs, but did I do this right? Yes, okay. We had the nurse, security, and a custodian, and we added those costs in because this was the only one that came related costs. But Jennifer, if you want to take us through these as well.
Yes, so we know you definitely need 1 nurse, a security guard, and a custodian in the building. And what we did was we took the step 1 salary for each of these positions. We applied the Social Security or FICA Medicare tax to that, also their pension benefits, and their health and dental insurance at individual rates. So if they actually came in and they needed a family policy, this would be a little bit higher. So the total cost for all 3 of those positions would be $159,414 per year. Our utility bill, as per the church, I know the electric rates, oil, everything has been going down. Their annual utility bill is about $13,500, and we called our insurance company to get our premium increase. And because we pay most of our insurance under our general liability line, which covers the whole district as a whole, we would only have to pay an additional $4,200 to just insure any of the individual items in the building. The total operational costs would be $177,114, and this all would be part of our tax levy limit. So what we did was, as a percentage of our tax levy limit, this would be about half of 1%. So if our tax levy limit one year was 2%, this would take up, less than half of 1%. So the next slide will show you the impact of those operational costs on the taxpayers. And those operational costs spread amongst our tax base, it would cost around $26.40 per taxpayer per year in order to support those operational costs within our general fund budget. In the previous slide, you didn't see any of our employees that would work in our cafeteria because our lunch department employees are actually paid out of a separate fund and not the general fund. So we will have lunch staff, though, in the building.
Our next steps, your questions. If I don't have the answers, I will find them and I will put them on the district website. We will also be having, be at the Noyak Civic Council on April 12th, and we'll also be having the bond vote on May 17th. And I have, he was dying to be Phil Donahue. Don't do that to him. He has the teeth. He's ready. Are you kidding? He asked to do this. Matt Malone has a sore throat tonight, and I said, Matt. He said, sorry, I can't be there, Phil. He's on his way to Dr. Cott. And I said, Jeff Nichols has been dying to be Phil Donahue. He just took away your thunder. Can you imagine? So I have, if you haven't been here, we've been having the Phil Donahue show. And for those of you who don't know, that was my mother's favorite talk show host, so you just have to live through it. So Eric Bramoff and Jeff Nichols. Eric Bramoff is our fabulous facilities and athletic director, and Jeff Nichols is our middle school and high school principal. They're also willing to field questions as well. So please feel free, and as our Board of Education, I'll do our personal best fast. Because they do have to get home. Okay, one. Oh, we're going to go to Karen first. Karen? And, yep.
As a neighbor to the project, I'm excited about the outdoor space.
Do you want to tell them who you
Hi,
are?
I'm the rector of Christ Episcopal Church, so I'm across East Union from Stella Mera. And I live in the house on the other side of the church, so I really am a neighbor to the project. My question is parking.
Yes.
How many slots are you going to need for the staff that you have on site, and where are they going to park?
I don't have a solid answer for this, but the church has reached out and said that they would be absolutely open to an agreement that they've already worked out with the Watch Case Factory and a few others to make parking available, not on Sundays. Or Saturday nights for the school. There is a rub there, so if our parents for the pre-K and for the daycare need to park and they have availability in the St. Andrew's Church, we would have to work with the village because by law the village has to cross the children. We can have our people with them, but the crossing guard is that we'd have to work with the village on that.
I was so hoping you were putting a large parking lot in that would be free on Sundays, but
Well, I see.
I'm Nada Barry, and I'm probably the most senior citizen here, I think. First, I want to thank the board, I want to thank Katie, and I want to thank Jennifer, because I think you people have done a fabulous job in presenting this from the beginning to now. I have absolutely think
Thank
it's
you, Nada.
wonderful.
Thank you, Nada.
Secondly, we've been talking about a opportunity and a need, and I'd just like to bring up something that over 50 years ago, there were 3 of us in Sag Harbor who wanted to send our children to a pre-K or a nursery school. There wasn't anything available here, and there were only 3 of us. Interestingly, for some of you, one of them was Stephen Anacone, whose father, Dominic Anacone, became principal and superintendent of schools. The other was Tracy Frieda, whose father became the superintendent of East Hampton, Bob Frieda, and myself. And I've been involved in the periphery of education my entire life, and I've helped found 2 schools, including the Hampton Day School originally 50 years ago. Now, I see an opportunity here, but I also see a need, personally, because if we can get this and go with the first option, we desperately, for our community, need both a pre-K and all-day program. I run into this in my business constantly, people who don't know what to do with their children or can't do it. If they have to pay for it, I hope this community will help raise money for those people who can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada.
Hi, how are you? Jim Sanford. I have a son in first grade. Jennifer, can you elaborate again on the cafeteria that would be within this facility under option one? You know, in my opinion, one of the most gaping needs for Sag Harbor Elementary is the need for a cafeteria and a lunchroom. So I didn't see any data about any staff associated with that under the operating cost data, but you did make a comment on that. Could you reiterate that again, or how that's going to work?
The option one does include a full-service kitchen, and we're hoping that we could actually have staff in there, not only cooking for the children that are going to be attending Stella Maris, but also be bagging lunches for the elementary school, and we can bring the lunches here. There are a lot of school districts in the state that actually do that currently, and they already have a model in place for that. All of the staff that work in the lunch department actually get paid out of our school lunch fund. And our school lunch fund is basically self-sustaining, and all of our sales they're supposed to cover all of the payroll and all of the additional purchases, supplies, materials. The general fund does subsidize the lunch fund to an extent. This year's budget, it was $15,000. Next year's budget, it'll continue to be $15,000. We've had really wonderful sales this year in our Pearson cafeteria, and we may, in fact, be able to lower that subsidy going forward into the 17-18 budget. So we're probably going to have a presentation at the end of the year to just show everybody how successful the program has been and will continue to be. And we plan on also using some of our staff that we currently have, who they're trained chefs and cooks, and they're going to be training any new people that we need in Stella Maris.
Right.
So there's no additional cost to the general fund operating budget at all.
So all the additional staff that's associated with cooking this food and delivering it to elementary students, there's no additional cost from that?
It would all be, all of the costs would be accounted for in the school lunch fund, and all of those costs would be covered by the corresponding sales. So we would be selling additional meals to all the adults in the building in Stella Maris, all the students in the building. We would probably have an agreement with whoever was the pre-K provider, or not the pre-K provider, whoever was the daycare provider, to also provide those students snacks and meals. And then we would also be selling to the elementary school students.
It's not an unusual model. It's a model. It's
Okay.
very it's replicated all across the state.
So the sales of the food actually cover the cost of
Yes.
unionized labor under ACA healthcare plans?
Yes.
That's surprisingly positive
Our
to
school
know.
lunch prices are fairly reasonable, and right now, one of the best parts of being able to do this is being able to provide students who do have needs and economic needs, and who would have received free and reduced lunch if we offered it in the elementary school. Those students now will receive free and reduced lunch every single day once we can start bringing the lunch in.
It's close to a fifth of our population qualify for free and reduced lunch. So right in there, you have that built-in factor of revenue that's provided by New York State, but it also is the right thing to do for our children, kindergarten through fifth grade, and our preschoolers. But we're not going to do anything that's not sustainable. But we have a lot of experience with this. So next. Yep.
Jamie Mott. I have twins in the pre-K now. They'll be in kindergarten this coming year. I just wanted to speak to a little bit about comments about young people not staying in district, down the road and down the line. I'm an alumni from Sag Harbor who went to college out of state, lived out of state, and chose to come back here and have my family here. A big thing for me, and this is my husband, who's not from Sag Harbor, I imported him, is that in order to stay here, you have to have two incomes. That is kind of across the board, and in order to have children and have two incomes, you need to have affordable daycare. So we have, since we had twins, affordable daycare was really important and really hard to find. So I'm a landscape architect by trade. I work early in the morning, I work till the evening, and it was really important to me to have somewhere I could bring my kids that I felt safe bringing them, and the options were really severely lacking. So, yeah, as well as local. So that was really important. So I think we have to have this. So.
We can team up. I moved here too, okay? So.
Hi, Simon Harrison. I have a 7th grader who's gone through the whole system here. I'm sorry if I was asking some confusing questions. And I don't pretend to know better than the administrators who say they want the building, and I trust their judgment. And I also trust the school board to make effective decisions. However, the survey really challenges me, and if I'm for the purchase, I'm going to vote one way. If I'm against the purchase, I'm going to vote another way. And to use this audience as an example, there are 12 people in this section and 6 people in this section. And if these 12 people vote no purchase, that's 12 votes against the purchase. And if these 6 people are for the purchase and they have 5 votes each, there are 30 votes for the purchase. So the structure of this survey is eroding my trust because it feels like a setup. And maybe there's still something that I don't understand, which is why I came up with this example.
Can I help him out?
Yeah.
The purpose of the survey was not to determine whether we should buy it or not buy it. The purpose of the survey, we're going to take it to a vote to make that decision regardless.
I understand that.
So the purpose of this was just to help guide us as to, if we bought it, what would you want to do with it? That's all.
Right, but the structure of the survey is flawed in a very basic way, leaning for the purchase almost 5-1 just by the structure, and assuming that I'm for the purchase, right? I trust the board, I believe the board, fed by the administrators who know better than me. I'm not saying that. But how is it possible to have a structure like this and present data like this when people who are for the purchase will vote 5 times and the people against who will vote it once?
Katie, I'm going to jump in here, just only because I spent years and years for Fortune 50 companies running research departments, so I have an understanding of how research is done. And the reason why there were many choices that people could rank is because originally when we were talking about having these public forums, we thought, well, let's just have them and we'll have a discussion. Then we thought, how do you actually structure a discussion? And then the second thing that came to us was, you know what? We first need to hear from the educational leaders who understand the educational needs best in the district. So when they came up with ideas, we said, well, if we had people just choose one and not another, then we may not get as rich a response back. We're not putting this out to a vote because we added all this up and said the number's really big, so we might as well put it out there. Regardless of what the survey says or what's going to say, the voters decide. It was simply to show that these are of the ideas, the top ideas that the educational leaders came up with, what resonated with the community. But these statistics are not going to be in the ballot box to try to sway anybody. This is simply to provide rich data. I'm sorry you don't like the methodology. This methodology is used in many districts when they do this. We use a third-party expert who has done this in other districts. I'm sorry you don't like it, but this is really just to provide information. I don't know what else to say on it.
With all due respect, you're not answering my question.
Then maybe I don't understand it. I'm sorry.
And they aren't voting multiple times. They're just putting a singular, which you can see in front of you, a singular rank for anyone. So I only go in once, and I'm going to say, 130 people very clearly went in and said, do not purchase this. They closed down the survey. They're done. But you know what? This is really just, that doesn't, guiding our instruction, we get data. We don't always get the greatest data. We get data to guide our instruction. And we workshop it here to hear back from folks real time saying, you know what? I didn't know about daycare. I'm 55. My kids are 20 to 28 now. Not in that biz anymore. But when I was there, I was flipping out. And it had to be perfect. It had to be perfect. So this guides our instruction these evenings. I go to Key Communicators at 7:30 in the morning. Do I get a piece of Nada's mind? Oh, you bet. I'm in King Cullen, and my husband's given up. He's like, I'm gonna go to another aisle. You can talk to people. It guides our instruction. People say there were certain components that the architects clearly told us we could not do. We did not have a separate entrance. We did not have parking. We could not do certain things.
You're pivoting from my point.
It's a simple question. Was only the first option used in the survey result, or did you also count the people pro it, their choices 2 through 5? If you did that, you inflated them fivefold. Or maybe the real question is, in these survey results, are you only including the person's first choice? That's the
No,
question.
they're ranked. You can look through. We have every single one online.
It's a simple yes or no question.
We have every single one.
We went through
No,
that.
no, asked and answered. I have people that have to go home to bed. Asked and answered. Asked and answered. I can't. I gotta get people home to bed. You can look online. We have every single survey, and I hope that'll help. We took every survey and we put it online in case folks needed that. And we did have an expert in the field do this. That's why we didn't do it ourselves. We had Syntax
Which
do
company
that.
did this? I
Syntax.
thought you and Jennifer, you said it before, you guys did it yourself overtime and it didn't cost us anything.
That was the informational slides. Thank you very much. Informational slides.
So
Informational slides.
Syntax did do this.
They didn't pay him any extra.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great to know.
Do you have, okay, ready?
You look
Next?
online, you see all this information.
No. I'll come back to you. I promise I'll come back to you. But everybody else gets a chance. Okay, go ahead. Christian?
My name is Christian McLean. I have 2 daughters. One's in first grade, another one's a year and a half. And one thing that we've always been concerned about is the middle school being mixed with the high school. And so when Stella Maris actually first closed down, we thought, well, wouldn't that be a great middle school? And so I was wondering if that was ever brought up as an idea, yes. Or how, in the first option, I guess, or any of options, how separate does the middle school become? How much interaction is there with 6th graders and 12th graders?
Really good question, and Jeff and I will answer that together. We did, that was, matter of fact, board members, administrators, all played with that one and played with that. We share, we're a small school, so we share so much staff between the middle school and the high school that travel time between becomes unsustainable. Again, we have to do something that the community can sustain, and we don't have, that staff is shared. So we have folks that teach 7th and 8th grade and also teach IB classes, so which is great because they know where the children have to get to. They're not just middle school teachers, so they understand they have to get to this place in math, and they have to get to this place in English and in foreign language. So you might have somebody teaching IB, foreign language or language other than English, and then they also are teaching our 7th and 8th graders. So the stretch was too. Does that mean that can't be a possibility in the future? It's possible, but and I'm going to let Jeff. You want to take part of that? How'd I do?
Yeah, I think the specific numbers are. Sorry about that. So assuming there are 3 sections, which means roughly 20 students per group. 20 students per section, you would be able to house the 6th and 7th grade in one wing for your core subjects, which are math, science, social studies, English. Having said that, the other subjects would still be located throughout the building, and those are subjects like foreign language, art, music, those subjects. The 8th grade, you would not be able to put in the wing. Basically, you're gaining 3 to 4 classrooms. If we were 4 sections per grade, in other words, if we had roughly 80 students in 6th and 7th grade, you would be able to keep the 6th grade there and get 3/4 of the 7th grade there.
Yeah, we're making moves, right? But we graduate them closer. Right now we have children that are more on the move, and our hope is to keep them younger, longer. It's how it is, keep them younger, longer. Did I answer your question? Okay. Wait, Karen, I want to go through everybody first, if that's all right.
I don't need this, yeah. Hi, I'm Kirsten Simmons. I've born and raised here, and I actually went to Stella Maris, graduated Stella Maris and went to Pearson, and then actually went to college and came back and taught at Stella Maris until it closed in 2011. So hi. So the building is near and dear to my heart, as well as I think it's a really important fixture to this community. And just what I wanted to say was thank you, board, for taking this opportunity as something that would be a great proposal for our school to make it a part of our school district, because I think the underlying point here, I mean, it all comes down to dollars and cents, but in the grand scheme of things, it's also about community, in our community. And if we didn't take this opportunity to purchase this now, and again, like Katie said, we would never have this opportunity again to have a building so close to us that's already a school and already so part of the community. Because if this opportunity goes and we don't buy this building, then what does it become for our community as well? So I just personally don't want to see, I would love to see it thriving with children again, like it has been for over 100 years. I don't want to see it turned into condos or a parking lot. You know, I don't want to put it that way necessarily, but I just love the idea of it becoming a part of our community again, and a good part of our community, what it was built and meant to be. So that's just my piece. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have we gotten everybody before I make next rounds again?
Hi, my name is Liza Tremblay. My husband and I own Bay Burger on the Turnpike. We have a 5-year-old about to go into Sag Harbor Kindergarten and a 1-year-old. And we're sending our son to Bridgehampton pre-K this year and paying about $5,500 because we needed a full-day pre-K option. And that was less than some of the private schools in the area. I understand that full-day pre-K doesn't make sense for the reasons that you stated, but I think this daycare pre-K combination is a fantastic idea. We've spent a huge proportion of our income on sitters for the past 5 years because there's no daycare. And I love the idea of daycare. It socializes the kids, gets their immune systems going. I love daycare. But it's just not an option for me. I can't drive to Southampton every day with my baby. So I am a huge supporter of option number 1.
My 4 children thank you for Bay Burger. Thank you.
Ice cream on regular basis.
Yeah.
It's only
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
We could go for ice cream after the meeting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This gentleman over here.
We will get you, James. Just let me get to everyone else first. Make one round.
Hi, Paul Garrett. Yeah, I'm back. Just to add on to your point about buying this thing and keeping it what it is. The thought I just want to point out, and this has been brought up and touched on in some of the previous meetings, but for anybody who hasn't been to one of the other meetings or might have missed it, to the point that's been raised that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it's probably a once-in-history opportunity, and also, if we don't do it now, and again, I've said this in the other meetings, full disclosure, I don't have any kids in school. I don't have a dog in this hunt other than being a taxpayer, but I am a taxpayer, so I'm all for it, because if we don't do it now, woe be unto the taxpayer when 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whenever, the demographic changes in a way that we don't see coming. The economy changes, God forbid another September 11th happens and more people decide, I'm not working in the city anymore, I'm working from my house out east. Woe be unto the taxpayer. If we got to find a place and build a place, at that point, it's going to be astronomical compared to what this is. And just to the point of the survey, again, so I don't know if this answers your question or not, but as I view the survey, if you're going to go out and put something to a vote, and if you just say either vote, do we buy it or do we not buy it, that's a pretty open-ended question with really no meaning. In my view, this survey was, here are some of the things that we can do with this, so we can make an informed decision, so you know that at least we're thinking about what we would do with this if we bought it, as opposed to just saying, give us a blank check for a building that we might or might not use for something somewhere down the line. And I think, again, to the point of too many answers, I think it was each IP address only gets to submit this once. So unless you have somebody who's going to jump from computer to computer and take up all of his friends and neighbors' surveys, I think the numbers should be fairly good. By the way, I added them all up. 1,889 was the actual total down the right. So there were people who made one or two choices and said, nope, that's it, I'm done. But the majority of the people did rank order all 6 of them. And I'll shut up now.
I have 3 kids, so.
Make sure we've got, yep, James, then Karen will come back to you. Has everybody got a chance? Okay, everybody else has gotten a chance to speak? Yes?
Does everybody have their initial chance?
Okay.
Thanks again. I know I've spoken a lot about this, but I wanted to address some of the comments from the lady that was a teacher at Stella Maris. School district funds need to be used exclusively for the children in the school. We can't use them because a building is near and dear to anybody in the community. We can't use them to prevent a condo complex going up in that space, which can't legally happen at all. You can't even put affordable housing there. What I've heard, that's already been decayed by the village. There has been interest in this property for other uses. This has to be used, in my opinion, as a parent, solely for the children in the school. I like all the options in option 1. I'm against this because I want to expand programs for children. I see this as a threat. I see it serving another purpose, not the purpose of children. Have we ever looked into expanding the existing facilities of the Sagar Elementary School? We have land there. We could expand with less square footage to add more pre-K, add more space for middle school children. We could have a real cafeteria and a real lunchroom. We could do that. We've never done that. This is going to prevent us from ever doing that again. And I have issues with people that view this purchase as solving a community issue. That's not only wrong to our children, it's actually unlawful. We need to use these funds solely for school district children. So many of the options, including option 1, require ancillary uses and revenue sources. For instance, in option 1, if I'm correct, one issue that came up is 160 seats for pre-K, and the success is entirely contingent on getting out of district students to come there. I'd love to see full-day pre-K. My child used that at another school, was a lifesaver. We can do that within existing facilities by enhancing them and expanding them at lower cost. Unfortunately, none of that would solve the issue of what to do with this property of Stella Maris, of course, but that should not be an issue that affects parents and the staff of the school district. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I have another neighborhood question. Because churches attract both saints and sinners, and we have 12-step programs that go on at the church, I can see people with preschool children saying, we don't want those people, quote unquote, close to our children, who park on the street right by the school and have their cigarettes and have loud conversations. And there is one that meets in the afternoon. Most of the rest are in the evening after the school be closed.
They may have to smoke on the other side of the street because we will be a smoke-free school zone. They will. They will have to. They will. They'll have to. We do, and that's why we have a security guard as well. But they will have to smoke on another because we will be a smoke-free school zone.
I'm just more worried about the not in my backyard, not near my children. When
I got to tell you, this generation, this generation, and I say because you guys are my children's generation, are the broadest generation I've ever met. They are so. People say kids these days. My children. Not only did they have a sibling with special needs, they are so inclusive. This is really the first generation that said, I don't care if they're disabled, if they're gay, if they're purple, they just are the most kind. Like when we brought in the special needs program, and I looked at Matt and I said, I gotta tell you, I'm a little too close to this issue. The first couple weeks, I can't be there. If anybody says anything about those children being in our school, and at the end of the first week, he said, Katie, it was a celebration. You gotta get over here. It's all good. This is, and maybe I'm overgeneralizing, and you come back and you smack me around, and I'll have personal conversations with people. I'm not afraid of them, Karen.
My
this is a
benchmark is Babylon. Christ Church Babylon started a feeding program the neighbors tried to shut it down and held them up for 6 months to serve free dinners at the church.
This is
So just,
yeah.
How long have the programs been in existence in the church?
40 years, 30 years.
And it was a Stella Maris school across the street.
Indeed. It was.
Same deal.
Good.
Yeah. Say, it was never
Good,
an
I'll
issue
invite
before.
you all to the meeting if one has to be.
Never an issue. It's all good. It's all good.
I went to that school. I was wondering what those people were.
And you turned out okay.
You're okay.
So if this was purchased, when would it be up and running? The school. When would the doors open?
When your kids
I'm not-
graduate Pearson.
And I'm not. If there's and I do landscape design for a living, so I work
Do you
in
think your
construction.
grandchildren will go to
But
school yet?
Is there a projected opening the doors?
Well,
rough, no
You have,
stamp on paper.
You have Jennifer and I, and they'll tell you that we don't stop. We press and press and press. But I'll let Jennifer take that question.
Speaking with the architects and engineers, they feel that we could probably be open in September of 18. So, but things happen, and it could be later. Okay.
But we also pick up the phone and pick up the phone and pick up the phone. I think the
just
board
a
is really
general
proud of
idea.
us on that.
was-
But our last bond project was slow, and we were really worried about that. And I think that we've learned from a lot from that, and because we haven't done a lot of bond projects, but Jennifer and I have, and we do. I think the urgency that we have really felt from our community. We're so excited the bond project's underway, and we've gotten our bidders, and we're on target now. But I think our board is very proud of how much we move things along, and I think that's what we're going to continue to see. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for us? This is all online. You just have to go to the school website. You'll see a little tickler line right on the side. It has Stella Maris, and every single thing you've seen here, including my shiny little face, all of our attractive board members, all of our administrators answering questions, every one of these has been put online. I am a phone call or an email away. You just have to call, and if you ask a question, I'd be happy to answer it. Yes, yeah, got one more. Sure.
Was there ever an option to just purchase the property?
Yeah, we did discuss that.
Yeah, yeah.
We did.
Oh.
And that could be decided not maybe in such a compressed time?
Yeah, that's a good question. When the Board of Education looked at it, but we can't use it at all. We can't use it at all, and we can't. A single person can't even. We can't even use it for bingo. Nope. Can't touch it because it's a public school building. But only for storage. That's all we could use it for, is storage only. And let me tell you, our Board of Education, our trustees know this community and are representatives of the community, and the community's going to go, we could hold it. And then it could also deteriorate, and we could have further things happen because you don't.
Katie, the other
Yeah.
thing is, if we had just put a bond out to only purchase the building, and the community said yes, and then we figured out what we're going to do with it and put another bond, and the community said no, we'd be holding on to a building that literally you can't have administrators, we can't have any public school employee or child use the facility at all until improvements are made. It's against the law. So because the state of the building. No, but what I'm saying is, if we bought it and then the community didn't pass a bond to fix it up, we'd have a building no one could use.
Yeah. And the other thing we did have on there for the options was just to purely bring it up to schools codes and just to use it as a lease, just as a revenue. And it didn't resonate with the community. It just wasn't one of the options folks picked at all.
No, it was actually based on the Board of Education's extensive research and due diligence with our attorneys that we brought these options to you and our educational leaders. I mean, this was not just a turn on a light, oh my God, let's just do it. And we did talk about buying it and leaving it. I personally have been through 4 bonds here. It's very difficult to say to a community, okay, can you go out and vote for a bond for $3 million? Sure. 3 years later, oh my gosh, God forbid another tragedy happens, we need space. Oh, can you go back out and give me another $6 million now? And my bond rating might not be as good, and the construction costs could be up, and we don't know where we're at. So it was the Board of Education and the administration's due diligence that brought us to this place. But not for 1 minute do I feel, with my fellow board members, that we left any rocks unturned in bringing you the presentations that we did. So I feel very confident. We did our due diligence. Now the voters go out and you decide. We don't decide. We can't just buy it on a blank check. You have to vote for it. She's got to ban it, bond it, do it, what she's got to do. So I feel good, and I just want to thank you guys because this has been an incredibly long, quick, long process to make sure that you guys had every single piece of information you needed to make the best choice that you felt for your district, for your children. And I want to add one thing. We had, I think it was Jim that said about his children, I don't make a vote for my child in 8th grade. I make a vote for 1,000 students in K through 12 every time I do a vote. So that's, and I don't do it for the kids that are here now, but the kids that have already left, the kids that are coming in, and the people who move into my community. And I'm on my 13th year, so that's how I do it. So thank you guys for coming.
Yeah.
And please, no matter how you're going to vote, please
Just
vote.
vote.
And I heard someone ask why, at a previous meeting, why we weren't recommending it. Coming out and saying, please vote yes for this. We legally cannot recommend to vote yes or no for any budget or for any bond referendum. So just so you know that. But we can beg you to vote and ask your friends, whether they're for or against it, to vote, because the more votes there are, then the decision is more representative of what the community wants. And to me, that's an ultimately successful vote when we have a big turnout, regardless of the outcome.
Yep. We're good with that. We did what we had to do, you do what you do. We do a meeting if anybody wants to stay.
Yeah, we are going to have a meeting to adopt the.
It's a public meeting.
Public
We've got
meeting,
agendas.
feel free.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming.